resolve and sure grittiness.
It starts with an attitude. We need swagger, okay? Regardless of what happens out there. Doesn't matter. Keep your swagger.
Welcome into the 5-Hole Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the fantasy hockey podcast healthy enough to play NHL games, but not appear in the Four Nations face-off. We're your hosts tonight, Alan and Jay. Jay, what's going on? What's up?
Oh man, that Four Nations face-off has divided so many fandoms. Like I've lost count, Alan, of the number of folks that are like, I couldn't care, and it's like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Like, where do you stand, Alan?
No, I know we've talked about outside the show. Like, I am one of those that's like, it's not the real Olympics. They're not playing for the Stanley Cup. So it's not for me, but that's okay. I hope if you are excited about it, that it is everything you hoped it would be, best on best of those who show up. But yeah, let's get into it before we get to news and everything. Our plugs, housekeeping. YouTube, if you're watching us on YouTube, like, subscribe, please. We're inching, millimetering closer to 1,000 subscribers, so we can unlock some content creator options. Feel free to join our Discord. We have over 2,700 fellow fantasy hockey fanatics in there, talking everything fantasy hockey or not. You can also follow us on Twitter. We're still there, despite our best efforts. And then TJ's got the tools on the website, FHFhockey.com. He's always cooking something good there. So we'll get into news. First storyline of the day, kind of funny. Philip Grubauer placed on waivers by the Seattle Kraken. So clearly it's the Joey Decord show. I was trying to look at their goalie depth, and I didn't recognize a single name, which once I thought about it, I feel like Chris Drieger went over. He's back in the Florida system. So I don't know, Jay, like I don't think we ever were hyped on Grubauer. I mean, automatic drop, right? Like, I don't think he gets called back up.
I mean, I think it's a contract issue more than anything, where he just gets too much and does too little. And Joey is both cheaper and on a contract deal, right? So I do want to, I guess, like, reach out to any of those cap connoisseurs out there where, how does it work? Like, if you snag Grubauer, does his contract have to come along with him? I'm assuming, like, unless he is willing to waive his own contract and sign a new one. And then the other question is, does Seattle still have to pay him out? Like,
yeah, I think they still pay him, but they get some cap relief if he goes to minors. No one claims him, which holy crap, no one's going to claim that guy. And just like I wasn't really surprised that Brandon Saad got placed on waivers. Looks like his contract is being terminated, which now frees him up. He can sign somewhere cheaper. Saad loses out on like the $4 million, $5 million that he was owed, but he can sign somewhere, take like a $1-2 million deal, and actually get to play.
For sure. And I mean, at the end of the day, we forget these guys are competitors. They want to be on the ice, and frig, yeah. I mean, Philip Grubauer, I guess, is this kind of like really deep leagues we're talking here, like 16-teamers, 18-teamers, and
oh my god, I think you only ever picked up Grubauer against the easiest of opponents. Yeah, only if you had no other choice. But moving on to injuries. Kirill Kaprizov back to the IR. He is undergoing surgery for the same injury he was struggling with earlier. The timeline the team is providing is like 4 weeks ish, which is great with the Four Nations tournament coming up. I seriously wonder, we have the Four Nations guys who are playing, but I wonder how many of these guys, like the Russians, cough, will benefit from this just rest. I know Kucherov's getting tired of carrying the team on his back. Next up, Nico Hischier has been declared week to week. Looks like Dawson Mercer slotting up between Timo and Nason. Mercer had a goal tonight. It looks like it was a shorty, but they downgraded it to just a regular goal. I don't know, Jay. I'm not interested in, I mean, Timo line mate, sure, but Stefan Nason second as your second line. I don't know. I'm not too interested in Dawson Mercer. I don't know if you feel otherwise.
No, I mean, the other part too is like I was looking at Jersey earlier, and I don't think their schedule is anything to. Well, I mean, Jersey technically has all off nights, so that's pretty good. It's just more so the stretch between. I think you can do stuff with a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday like empty slate where I wouldn't be looking to add them at this point in the week, and then further looking to next week. Yeah, they've got, the typical Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday slate. So, yeah, just in terms of that schedule, I am not looking at Jersey, and so I am not looking at any of those guys. I was I was gonna say too, like that injury we were talking about, and I mean it's related to that comment as well, where I think it was from Armin. Armin was mentioning the rumors about Dobson and then Cap for rest of the season. Did you see that Reddit photo?
No.
It is a slow-mo bad time for anybody. And I mean, for anyone here who's into human anatomy and figuring out how knees work, yeah, I don't think knees are meant to bend that way in the slow-mo. Mind you, it could have been just in that little freeze frame, but it looked bad. And yeah, seeing him flip on IR plus, Islanders also not doing hot things in the standings. He's such a young guy, like it's kind of to me.
Oh, that's also in the mailbag. We can dive into that later.
For sure.
Yeah, next up, Dylan Gunther is he's now upgraded to day. While looking up streamer options, I saw that he was 49% owned. Probably a pretty good IR stash down the stretch. I have to assume as soon as he comes back, he's not line one power play one, but line two power play. Again, he's going to get a healthy amount of minutes and be on that power play.
For sure.
And then speaking of returns, Mikhail Sergachev returned tonight. He was a game time decision, but definitely he was, the game has started. He's there back on power play one. Hopefully you got him in time. And then other valuable fantasy defensemen. Drew Doughty made his season debut tonight. Unfortunately, it didn't help the Kings at all because they got blanked by the Panthers. Expectation is he will play tonight and Saturday. And then Thursday, so tomorrow or today, if you're listening to the show on tomorrow, be dependent on after he feels after tonight's game. So yeah, Brent Clark, Brent Spence, whoever those guys were in the Kings.
Jordan Spence? I don't even
Jordan
remember.
Spence. There we go.
I'm
thinking Brent Spence. It's a bridge in Ohio.
Yeah.
So yeah, those guys drops. I think they were drops weeks ago, honestly. But yeah, Doughty, get him back in. And then last up, it looks like Charles, not James McAvoy. James McAvoy is the actor. Charlie McAvoy is quoted as saying he is looking to come back tomorrow, Thursday. So maybe today, depending on when you're listening to this. I don't know, man. I'd be a little shocked if he automatically gets power play one back. I feel like Mason Lohrei's been cooking lately. I don't know, Jay, if you or if you're just like, let's wait and see, or if you're like, no, you're onto something.
I mean, the issue is obviously anyone that's holding Lohrei, like don't drop him immediately. Wait and see. The second one though is just the same. I was checking the Kings box score. Drew Doughty came back first game back, and he takes power play one time immediately, right? So I think McAvoy is going to be in the same similar Drew Doughty boat. Worth noting though, he didn't get any of the shorthanded time, so I guess maybe that's how they're easing Doughty in. He gets all the PP. He gets on PP1, quarterbacks it.
Protected minutes.
Yeah, it doesn't kill the shorthanded time because that seems to be eaten up by some dude called Mikey Anderson, who I guess is now their bona fide stalwart. Yeah, so I think I'd put McAvoy in that boat. I don't think you drop Lohrei yet, but Yeah, I would be surprised if Lowry gets
Okay.
power play 1.
So with that, let's take it to the mailbag.
You've got mail.
Mailbag.
So
You've got mail.
Mailbag.
I don't like that.
You've got mail.
Mailbag.
There we go. All right. Now we're done. I'll have to fix that with the magic of editing later. So first up, Bravest Face 666 on Discord. Larkin versus Suzuki and Cats. His playoff weeks are 22 through 24. Yeah, it's crazy. Like they're kind of the same player. It just, in my opinion, I feel like Suzuki is probably more responsible for team offense than Larkin is. But for me, the deciding factor was kind of Suzuki does hit block more. So that's where I'd give him the edge. I forget. I know I looked up their schedules earlier. They're very comparable. Strength of schedule I didn't like for either team over the other. But number of games, I forget who had the edge, but it was a matter of like 2 games. I don't know, Jay, if you have wizarded the schedule and you can see that in front of you.
I'm trying to like pull it up and angle it. It's so difficult. Obviously, I know folks are saying like this is my week or that's my week. The general gist at the end of it is figure out for yourself the 2 weeks that are most important. The 2 weeks are your quarterfinal or your semifinal. And when PT is legendary, man. But more so, you should always target the week in which you are playing first, because obviously it doesn't matter if you have the best semifinal and final lineup. If you're not there. So I would say of the 2, let's look quickly at the quarterfinal week, assuming you're at the quarterfinals. It shouldn't be actually, wait, no, hold on. Montreal plays 3 games all on. Yeah, okay, then Montreal plays 3 games and Detroit plays 2. Detroit plays the worst Tuesday and Saturday. That's like the worst possible schedule.
That says maybe Montreal had the slight schedule advantage, if I remember
I'm leaning
right.
Suzuki then. I'm leaning Suzuki at first glance. And let's say you do have on the other end that first week boost or whatever you want to call it. Then even then, both of the teams have 4 games, but Montreal's 4 games are with the Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday. So then you get 2 off nights at the end of the week. And then Detroit gets the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday heavy. So you can double up on Detroit early and then still, I guess, lean into Montreal at the end of the. I don't know. I don't think so. I think if you're going between just these 2, you probably want to get Suzuki's side because you're guaranteed off nights. You get more games in the quarterfinal if you need. And they're basically, as you said, Alan, the same player.
Yeah. So moving on, PT gave us a laundry list again this week. So first up, this was one I said we needed to do like a Mythbusters, like fantasy hockey Mythbusters for. So just grab Fiala off waivers for $40 fab. He has Meyer 2. So he's wondering about the second half hypothesis. So, I mean, I didn't gather a super large sample size, but I just took his last 3 seasons. So looking at this, 23-24 in the first half, he had 37 points in 39 games with 17-20 time on ice. The second half, he had 36 points in 43 games played. I know that doesn't exactly 41-41, but he had 18-30 time on ice. He had a bump in deployment there, but scored fewer points in more games. 22-23, first half, he had 29 points in 41 games. And then second half, he missed some time here, but did have 33 points in 30 games. And then 21-22, his last season with Minnesota. And this is probably where people, recency bias came up with second half Fiala. He did in the first half have 34 points in 41 games played. And then the second half, 51 in 41. So yeah, it was crazy looking at the chart. So I don't know. Maybe there is a little something to it, but I feel like it might just be recency confirmation bias. I didn't want to spend all day going further and further back, but I don't know. There may not be something to it. I guess we'll see are we in the second? I think we're in the second half of the season. We'll see.
Yes, for 50 games in, 49 games in. Yeah, something like that. Well, the big one too is if you look at their team, there's only 2 guys that shoot a ton, right? There's him and Kempe. So, frick, they're gonna score. That team's a playoff bound team. They're gonna
Right.
score. You might as well get him. He's gonna. Most of the goals should theoretically. Well, you can't score without shooting, and he's one of the top 2 guys shooting. So, yeah.
Next up, yep, and I've actually incognito asked this question to a couple other fantasy pods out there. Possible spots for JT Miller if he's traded. So the last rumors before everything quieted down was he was looking at New York Rangers, Carolina, which who knows if that happens anymore. They might have blown their load. Dallas and New Jersey Devils. It sounds like Dallas is probably the least likely to go for him. I think I heard something right around the time the Carolina trade happened that Dallas was not really interested. For me, in terms of fantasy, I feel like the least fantasy relevant position for him is the Devils. Just because so many mouths to feed on there, unless they send some of those mouths to Vancouver. I mean, at best, you can hope he displaces Nason off the top power play, but he'll probably play wing with, if he's in the top 6, or else he'll be the 3C, and that's not where you want. Carolina, someone pointed it out. Could you imagine if Carolina's center depth was Aho, Miller, Stahl? Like, that is beefy.
It's kind of nuts, actually, when you say that out loud.
And Circular does have a point. If he does go to New York, I mean, it's a garbage playoff schedule, but like I feel like maybe he displaces Trocheck, so he's playing with Panarin, like a top 10 guy on any given night. I don't know, but I think for fantasy, I do like Dallas. He'd probably have to play wing in Dallas, but they've, with Sagan going out and then just guys going down left and right. I think Miller would get some good ice time in Dallas. But no, I haven't heard any updates since the Natchez Rantanen trade.
Well, I mean, the other one that's nutty is I think Dallas in their forward core has like $15 million coming off their books. Like Jamie Benn, Matt Duchene, Dadonov, Sam Steele, like all these guys are just rolling off into unrestricted free agency, right? So I think Dallas is a weird, sneaky, good value. Like if you're trying to I guess I can balance all the books and everything. He kind of fits the timeline too, doesn't he? He's kind of like the grizzled vet that could mesh in with all their young studs coming all in.
And I mean, maybe, or you do a sneaky second line and have Duchene and Miller, one of them on the wing, so that way, if their center gets tossed, you have someone who can take faceoffs. Which is always great.
I'm kind of. The issue with Miller is more so like he's a win now player. Right, you're not really getting him for like a 10-year window, so to speak. So he's kind of like a win now. But of those teams, isn't it basically just Dallas and I guess all those teams, even the Rangers, I guess would be in the win now setup too.
Yeah. And I haven't heard any updates on new teams, but that's kind of my thoughts on that. I liked hearing other pundits' opinions. Your top trade high waiver wire heroes. I will say, I might as well have gotten him on the waiver wire. Freaking Rickard Rakell. Holy crap. Like, what a stud this season. Like, it took a few minutes for him to get going, but he's been great, consistent. William Eklund, who I know I did get off the wire, has been great for me. Rickard Rakell, I think, actually is, I've heard in a few places, like, he's probably a guy you want to sell high on. And of course, anyone savvy knows what's going on. So I haven't been able to move him.
I feel like everyone on that San Jose team probably counts, to be honest. Like, first name that pops to mind, obviously, is like Fabian Zetterlund. Tyler Toffoli, I think it's kind of a missed boat, but still probably
I think
worthwhile.
all those Sharks guys, like
I think
for
all of
real,
them.
like
Yeah. I'd even say, like, not for any keeper leagues or anything, but like Macklin Celebrini could fetch you some real nice stuff with his name recognition. Mikael Granlund is the other one where like his utility. Oh, and Macklin Celebrini, the other part is he's a center only dude, right? So which might
Yeah.
buy you back guys where you could also snag back center value, probably likely on like a 10 or 12 teamer waiver wire. The other one with Mikael Granlund is that he's a fantasy unicorn, so slottable everywhere. But I mean, if you look at his recent production,
well, he's
like,
also a rumored trade target in real hockey. So
right,
if he goes somewhere, he's not going to have like that top 6 deployment. You're just
for
looking at like a third
sure,
line depth piece.
100%, yeah. So if he does get traded, the inverse of that is maybe Macklin Celebrini does have even greater room to grow. But
Right.
yeah, like you could basically target either or of those two, and I would probably try to trade. Like whenever we're trading at this point, I think Alan would probably agree that you're probably trying to trade for positions of scarcity. Like if you maybe not Granlund in that way, right? But okay, Granlund actually could still fit where you're trying to trade for like a more bona fide top or stronger bolstering floor
Upgrade
defenseman.
somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably your better goal. Like especially some of the lineups we've seen, like for like, oh, your starter bench. Man, some of these lineups, like the forward cores, look like they'll all eventually be Hall of Fame guys in 10 years. And like you look at the D guys, and it looks like like the Four Nations team Finland. Like what is
Zero D, baby.
so food for thought.
So I'll kind of tie these two questions in together. His last one is think he's looking to possibly trade Swayman because he's taking our advice, keeping Blackwood. So he's wondering kind of what the trade value is because he's looking to trade, I assume, one of Swayman, Stolarz, or Decord for Bouchard and Gensel, which fucking that's two amazing pieces. I feel like the goalie that would get you those is probably Stolarz.
I think it's an inverse, right? Because I think in terms of actual fantasy value, I think Decord is crazy. In terms of name recognition, Alan, you're 100% spot on. Find the Leafs fan that has Bouch
There you
and
go.
Gensel. You're good to go. Yeah.
And then sorry.
I don't think Swayman is a 1A, 1B, right? Like Swayman gets 2 out of
Swayman's
3.
pretty much starter. Yeah,
Yeah.
unless he's injured or I think he was injured recently. Yeah.
When he's
I just
sure.
Stolarz, I feel like even though he's in a tandem, has like the name recognition, more likely to run into someone who gets a hard on for the Leafs and you can swindle him. So next up, Swiss Cheese on the Discord, 12 team head-to-head cats, goals, assists, plus minus, power play, special or power play, PIMs, shots, hits, blocks, Middleton or Lacombe.
Man, if you're listing that out there, I'd probably lean Lacombe in terms of, well, because goals, assists, plus minus, and power play points, that basically locks up. Well, obviously that's like half, right? So like, let's say you score a power play goal, that's 3 categories snagged in 1 action, right? So in that case, I think Lacombe just offers all that, and he also offers the periffs that accompany it. Actually, let me double check.
Actually, no. So I looked this up, or side by side, apples to apples, looked them up earlier. So Lacombe is better for shots and points, which I kind of figured. But Middleton is the more rounded defenseman. Like they've played a similar number of games. I think they might have similar number of points, but Middleton he's lower shots, but like more hits and blocks. Probably will be better on plus minus for you. As with Minnesota looking to be playoff bound. I don't know. For me, it's almost Middleton if you want more well-rounded category coverage.
It's weird. Like, did Middleton get hurt? And Middleton must have gotten hurt. Yeah, because I'm like, he still hasn't rounded off 100 in any of the 3 cats. This is kind of a strange one for a peripheral god. But
right.
Yeah.
And he's also been out. I haven't checked his recent games to see if it's like, oh, is he not hitting? Is he not blocking shots? Because he's healthy enough to play, but he's not healthy.
he has 5 hits in his last 5 games, which doesn't sound bad, but it's not the kind of production you were expecting if you were expecting him to, like be out there blasting everything that moves. But yeah, he had a game of 5 blocks there, which I think yeah, if you have a guy that's getting you 5 blocks in a random night or can give you 5 blocks in any given night, that is kind of like a category winner, honestly. Let's see what Lacomb's capable of doing. He gives like 4 blocks on a random given night and also gives you a dud. Yeah, maybe peripheral production. It depends what you're targeting as well. There was one value option I was seeing before. Is basically if you were doing fantasy stuff, basically go to your league, go to what they call as team stats, and basically judge to see where your team in particular stands compared to the rest of the league, and yeah, make a decision from there for your Middleton or Lacombe.
So yeah, next up, Armin came to us on Twitter. So yeah, kind of like he asked earlier, rumors of Dobson being out rest of season. You know what, man? I sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire, and they haven't come out and said that Dobson is out rest of season, but they signed Tony DeAngelo, pretty controversial player, to a contract, and then they traded for Scott Perunovich from the Blues. You tell me if Dobson is out for the rest of the season, or at least some very, very extended length of time. You always try to flip him, but his value is rock bottom, and it's let's be real. Like the Islanders are probably not making playoffs this year, so why would they go out and try to get more defensive depth unless they needed to fill in for injuries? Yeah, he's what to do with Kaprizov. Yeah, they've have a timeline on Kaprizov for weeks. You gotta hold him. I don't think you get accurate trade value for him. You look like you have something, Jay.
Yeah, my big one is just looked up Dobson, went to the sub, went to all the subs. So now somehow I'm on the New York Islanders subreddit. And let's just, if you can see this angle over here, I don't know what angle this is in terms of like calculations. This is 30 degrees, Alan. Looks around 30 degrees.
30, 45, yeah.
Yeah, you tell me if a knee is supposed to bend 30 degrees or not. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think this is pretty bad. Yeah, that slow-mo looks horrendous. I would completely agree with that Perunovich signing.
So if you can swindle someone trading for Dobson, his value is going to be low, but you're not holding. Okay, so that's another factor to consider is how's your IR situation. If you're not hurting for IR spots, it doesn't really hurt you to hold him. But if you can get something for him in return, say go for it.
So here's the juicy part for the listeners too, Alan, where technically you stand at the precipice of a couple of things. If he's out for actually the rest of playoff fantasy season, his spot on your IR could be eaten by another. Yeah, well, you could get another guy on IR that was
keeper dynasty. You probably hang on to him, but redraft, yeah. If they announce he's any more than like 6 weeks, you might be able to punt him to the curb. Yeah, Kaprizov.
We're playing fantasy playoffs in 5-6 weeks.
I know, it's crazy.
He's not. I mean, I don't know. Like you're thinking like that requires surgery and then a reassembling of his meniscus or his MCL, ACL, PCL, something like that.
Oh, those injuries, always take weeks, months.
You're grabbing like a cadaver or something to get you like a new version. And then after that happens, you're needing him to go through not just like the surgical component, but then the therapy and the reconstructive components of that.
And then getting up to game speed.
That does not sound like a 42-day project, No.
Yeah, so back to Armin's questions there. So Kaprizov, yeah, we know we have a timeline there, 4 weeks. 2 of that is set for Nations face off. So hang tight. FSA hang tight on him. Monahan, they just downgraded him to 6 to 8 weeks. That's, I don't know. I would say count out your rest of the season if Fantilli 6 weeks is like playoffs. Oh yeah, Fantilli's been amazing. I almost wonder if they bump Fantilli back down. because it's clearly either, Monahan is probably one of those guys that stirs the drink. So maybe they just Monahan, get him on a second line, get that line going. And now you have two functional lines.
I was also gonna say, like, what's the cap hit situation for him? Like, right now they have they have so much cap. Okay, never mind. Yeah, they'll definitely bring back.
Oh yeah. No, I think after the Johnny Gaudreau thing, like they weren't even going to make the floor, but were granted an exception.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. So okay, yeah, Monahan will come back whenever, but yeah, like Fantilli's doing like if Monahan is
hopefully
any
you
set
grabbed Fantilli. Good God, kid's nuts. And then Jeremy Lazon, I haven't tracked him. I know we always pumped him for periffs. I have no idea what his timeline is or if he's out.
Oh man, Armin, the predictions. Oh yeah, we basically need one guy to get bounced out, right? To make room for Sean. I mean, with what we agreed, Alan, wasn't Voronkov the guy we said was not the straw that stirs the drink?
Right.
Yes,
but he's a winger. Monahan is
a
a center. You want center depth.
Well, I mean, the thing is like Kent Johnson, right? Kent Johnson, line 2, power play 1. You would feel of all the guys, wait. Maybe
Monahan gets power play 1 over Fantilli, but not line 1.
Where did Monahan slot in on the 5 positions? Like obviously he wasn't the umbrella. He wasn't the umbrella D, obviously. But was he the net front? Was he the slot guy?
Oh my God, I couldn't tell you. I am not that much of an expert on power play
Columbus
positions.
Blue Jackets.
Yeah.
But it really, if we're really going down the weeds, Armin, I'm like, you basically want to like buckle down into the nuances of, I guess, the early 2020s NHL power play renaissance setup, and then figure out exactly which position Monahan played, and most likely whichever guy is there right now on the Columbus power play, that guy's gonna get bumped. That, like, if you're like, I guess, like theory crafting all the way down. Functionality, I think some guys can play multiple positions. And so if we're just going name recognition based on what I'm understanding, it's not going to be Werenski. It's not going to be Fantilli or Murachenko. That's how I'm envisioning it. It's going to be either Voronkov or Kent Johnson that get bumped. That's just if I'm theory crafting it down.
Right.
I don't know.
And I'm looking, I see, so for Columbus, I'd say one of Fantilli or Johnson gets bumped off that power play. For Monahan, but next up, he also asked about Lazon, who I just see is week to week, and he's a guy you get for bangs. I would, I don't know if he's really worth filling an IR spot for. He would, to me, he'd be the casualty if I need to like keep a full roster.
Well, the other
and not
one
have
is
these
like,
IR guys just sitting there.
Like, isn't he like kind of like Dakota Joshua? Like same idea, same like mold where he does amazing stuff, but then because he's hurt, like once he comes back, why would if you're coming back from injury, would the first thing you do is smash a wall? Like like it just isn't how it
depends.
Right?
It's one of those, are you healthy or you might be healthy, but are you hurt kind of thing.
Yes. Agreed.
Or I forget the Shoresy quote.
And what are you doing it for as well, right? Like Nashville is not going to make the playoffs, right? If you're banging and smashing so that your locker room's going to, do things.
They could very well shut him down, is what you're saying.
But also just like you inevitably play with the idea of trying not to get hurt, which defeats the bangs, which is not what Lazon's for. So I don't think he's IR. Like, the thing is too, what is he right now, Alan? He is, let me see. Like, what's his ownership is what I'm trying to basically say.
Oh, I don't have Yahoo pulled up right now. It's got to be
16%.
low.
He's at 16%. So I don't think you slot them. No, don't do it.
It's a pure bangs play. And the last part of his question, not a fan of Velarde's playoff schedule. What would be a fair 1-for-1 to trade him for? The first thing I came up with in my head, I don't know their playoff schedule, but maybe try to do 1-for-1 for Jake Ensel while Tampa is slumping.
Yeah, and I mean, I would also follow up and say, like, Armin, which week are you? Like, I looked and it says that you're what? You're a top dog, which I'm assuming means you're slotting
See,
into
you probably have the first week bye
semi.
locked in.
Yeah, so if you're slotting into a semis week, then you're looking ahead. Um, looks like Jersey's got a juicy schedule. The Islanders have a pretty good schedule. Oh, Vancouver's got a perfect schedule. Yeah, so like any of those three teams, I would target Jersey, Islanders, Vancouver. Like if you have that bye week.
I'm trying to think of like 1-for-1 players though on those
Oh,
teams.
from
I don't
those
know.
guys.
I don't know if you could do Jasper Bratt 1-for-1.
Yeah.
Maybe like a Nico Hischier, especially while he's
Nico Hischier.
injured.
Yeah, like the other one too probably could be sneaky value. Would be like it depends on what Brock Nelson or Matt Barzal are doing at the time.
There we go.
That could
Yeah.
be pretty sneaky stuff. I don't know about the Canucks, man. Like the Canucks could be interesting, especially if I
Depending
don't
on
know how.
who moves and who stays. Like,
That's what I was gonna say. Like, how theory crafted are you going? Are you gunning for the guy you think is gonna be traded to the Canucks? But I think that's a little too like offlandish. Um, Frick, I don't even know.
And then probably his last, he has one more question here in the chat. Who would you rather have for playoffs between Heiskanen and Dobson? Heiskanen. I honestly, Dallas is heating up and scoring, and I think Heiskanen's still not on a great point pace, but he's pretty much a lock for that power play one. Yeah, he's got 5 points in his last 5. Now he's up to like a 40-point pace. Hey, great. But I think they have one of the better schedules. I think we've always touted that they have one of the better schedules down the stretch.
Like, Armin, the real answer is you need to go on to that hockey subreddit or go to the Islanders subreddit and go scroll down and look at that Noah Dobson injury. Take a freeze frame, like look carefully, take your protractor out and look at the angles. And if you can see that man with that knee coming back in 42 days, Dobson's ceiling is unrivaled compared to Heiskanen. But if your protractor tells you some numbers that are pretty low, like below legal drinking age, you kind of realize you'd rather have a hockey player than, again, availability is the best ability, right? So looking with your protractor through those lenses, I don't know if Dobson's going to match that availability metric.
But last one here from the Discord, D-Stew. He is working playoff trades, so he wants to go for Crosby since he has one of the better schedules, specifically week 22. So he is looking to either float Meyer or Suzuki. He's wondering which one to try to float as a 1-for-1 trade first. I'm thinking Meyer. I feel like Meyer is he's not a lock on power play one. Hockey terrorist Sheldon Keefe just messes with his time on ice and stuff. I would say Meyer first, then Suzuki. Because like you were saying earlier, Suzuki is responsible for most of that team's offense. I feel like that is the card you hold back if it's, all right, if you don't want Meyer, what about Suzuki?
Sorry, Alan, can you remind me where I was looking at the notes? I was looking at the comments.
Sorry, this one came in kind of late. I'm reading it straight from the Discord.
Got you. Okay. And again, it's always the eternal question of, is this a likely quarterfinal matchup or a semifinal matchup?
So their playoffs are weeks 20 to 22. So he is that confident that he is going to make the finals. So he wants Crosby specifically for that finals week.
Okay. Jeez, Alan, like all my lineups are set for like 22 to 24. Lord goodness. What are you guys playing in fantasy playoffs? My goodness, that's crazy. That's in
February. Man, like my buddy says, real hockey starts in February. Like just in time to enjoy real hockey.
Just in time. Okay, so if it's Jersey or it's
so you're looking at it specifically from a schedule perspective.
Like if at the end of the day we're real here and honest, anybody can do anything on any given night. I have lost. Who was the guy I lost to, Alan? It was someone ridiculous. Like, what was his name? Frick. Who's the guy on the Oilers that I always made fun of? Connor Brown. Yeah, I've lost to a Connor Brown.
Oh yeah.
Like 2
Hat
goals,
trick.
2 assists. And it's like one of those where you look and it's like, how could this happen? And the thing is, you give yourself a chance each time you have a player playing. You kill yourself, you kill your chances of that occurring, when your guy doesn't play at all. So let's see. 20, 21, 22. Frank, like neither of those guys are really at the top of the leaderboards. I think it's just Suzuki then, right? I think it's just. Oh, actually,
so if you're gonna try to 1-for-1 trade, like he's saying, like which one do you try to dangle first? I would offer the lesser player first, in my opinion, and I feel like Meyer has like a less of a deployment, less of an opportunity on that team versus Suzuki, who is like I said, responsible for most of that team's offense.
I would probably. I think Meyer's ceiling is probably better on the better team. Yeah, you know what? No, I'm with Alan.
So offer Meyer.
Yeah, offer
then
Meyer.
Suzuki.
Offer Meyer.
Yeah, man. Frank pointing out Zibanejad. I seriously, I thought New York was coming back to life, and I guess they still are, but Zibanejad just has not been as much a part of that as I would like.
I mean, I would say you're in a good spot in your team if Zibanejad can even be considered as a drop, right? Like you must have some pretty strong production elsewhere in your lineup. I would probably just say that unless you're in a situation, you're either in a situation where it doesn't matter how bad he is, you only have these many drafted players that can be counted as studs, and the waiver wire is like, I don't know, you're racing to pick up Connor Browns. If that isn't your case, you probably don't want to underestimate your waiver wire in like a 10 or 12 teamer. You probably have some better value immediately on a week-to-week basis than what Zibanejad is giving you.
Ooh. Right. Yeah, Armin, would you do Dobson plus Velarde for Theodore? I kind of like that.
So you're getting one player and opening up a streamer spot. So I do like that. It really depends. Just you have to go to that Islanders sub. You have to see that freeze frame and make the snap decision for yourself. If Dobson comes back like 4 weeks from now and it turns out he was healthy, dude, that is like you're gonna hit.
Oh my god, yeah. If you can get Theodore, I go for it. Dude's pacing as a defenseman, pacing for 72 points. And as far as I can see, like nothing looks stat-wise that far out of line. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my god, if you can pull that off, go for it. Yeah.
Theodore. One goal in his last 5 games. Yeah, he scores in bunches. 4 assists.
I know. Game. Yeah. Like you said, none of those Vegas defensemen can be successful at the same time. Like it has to be like Theodore, right. Then oh my gosh, the guy from Calgary, and then the other guy. I forget them all. So yeah, move on to the weekend preview here. So teams with that Thursday, Friday, Sunday schedule, it's just Columbus, who we were just talking about. Adam Fantilov, come on, guys. He's only 24% owned. Like, this is a top line that was running house on the league. He should be much higher than that. Just go check on Voronkov. He's 47%. Both those guys, like line 1, power play 1 locks. Matthew Olivier, if you need riffs, and deep cut. Like I like streaming them here and there for the random points. Dante Fabro.
Ken Johnson too, right?
Ken Johnson too. 50%. I forget what his own. He's 15 or 50.
15 or 1-5.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
Available. Goalie. That's the question. I was like,
Elvis still.
Oh god, 33% ownership. Yeah, that's pretty good too. Like, he's won his last 2 starts. Sure. He starts 2 out of 3. Like, who's the other guy? Tarasov.
You know what? Yeah, Tarasov. They've kind of been bouncing between Tarasov and Jet Greaves, whichever one Dean Evanson feels is playing better at the time.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, that seems like pretty good scheduling, especially with that back-to-back as well, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then this week, man, just this week in general seems very light, like for games, period. Like the heavy days aren't so heavy. So you might be able to fit them in on the Thursdays. Friday, Sunday teams, Buffalo, JJ Paterka. I know he's been slumping, but good God, 28%. I feel like he should probably be owned a little higher than that, especially if you go to week 25. I think Buffalo has the highest amount of games in those playoff weeks. Jason Zucker, still power play 22%. And I think line 1 maybe still. But
line two.
Deep cut, probably worth looking at. Yuri Kulik, 1% owned. Right now he is centering Tage because apparently Tage is just unable to take a ton of faceoffs at the moment. Probably a wrist injury or something. He's got 5 points in his last 4. Next up, Colorado. Just go check on Lehkonen, 55%. And then I don't know why they keep trying to make him work, but good God, Jonathan Drouin, 29%. He's still line 1 for some reason. Probably power play 1. Man, I feel like those are the only guys worth grabbing, Jay, unless you have someone.
Well, randomly, I was like, it depends what your league counts as well. But Parker Kelly is like some weird sneaky value at line 4, like 0% ownership. Mostly just does anything peripherally, but yeah, like kind of a weird value target. I kind of really did not expect that one. There's still Middlestat, obviously. Ross Colton for the ceiling that he was able to do. He's really cooled off. He has not been the same player ever since he's been back. I really feel so sad each time I mention Colorado because I'm reminded of Mackenzie Blackwood and the joyous, like the pink sheet that turned blue that I missed out on. Brutal. And looking at Scott Wedgwood, he doesn't offer anything in the same vein at all.
Yeah. Next up, Dallas. Just go check on Jamie Benn, 59% owned, but he's definitely power play merchant. Evgeny Zadnov, somewhere my wife just like twitched. It's disturbance in the force thing. 5%. Line 1 still with Wyatt Johnson and Robo right now. Yeah, I don't know if that's right. Because didn't Heiskanen go down in their last game? So Thomas Harley might be like someone we look at. I forget his ownership.
78%. Oh my God, 78%. Wow.
I feel like that's a lot of people who drafted him and then just gambler's fallacy. It's like he's gonna pay off this week. So that might actually pay off if Heiskanen misses any sort of time. Unless they put Essel and Dell or something on that top power play.
No, but Stankoven, I think at 20% is great value too, especially with that. Well, I don't know if it's necessarily the bump. Like, I mean, Sagan's been out for a while, but I think it's just with ownership and if you're targeting schedule.
I was gonna say, yeah, Sagan's out. Like he is not fantasy relevant in a redraft league this season. That's where I was like, I feel like it'd be for fantasy a great landing spot for JT Miller is they just need someone. And they have the salary cap to do it. St. Louis, just go check on Dylan Holloway, 58% owned, 6 points in his last 6. Falk, these power play 1 guys don't really grow on trees. It's, power play 1, they have a pretty split unit. So you could either get Falk or Fowler. They're pretty widely available. Braden Shen, Bang Daddy Shen, 27% owned. Yeah. The quote line 2 with Holloway and Kyrou. I mean, if you look at those top 6, man, they're pretty interchangeable. You got Rob Tom, Buchnevich, and I forget who's the third on that line.
Neighbors? No.
Yeah, Jake Neighbors, I think.
Neighbors, yeah, Neighbors, yeah. Booch getting bumped down to power play 2. But again, no, Yalin, you're right. Yeah. Even the power plays are interchangeable, honestly, too.
Utah. There we go. Nick Schmaltz still doing Nick Schmaltz things. Does he have a point tonight? Yes, he did factor in on that power play goal. Yeah, it said 10 points in his last 9 before tonight. He's doing the good Nick Schmaltz things. I think yeah, he should be a little bit more owned than that. Just go check on Cooley. He's pointless in his last 3, but 7 points in 5 games before that. Barrett Hayton, I feel like, is the nice definition of a streamer right now. He is a goal scorer. He's only 14% owned. 6 points in his last 4 of those points being goals. I think for riffs, what are we looking at? Guys like Ian Cole, right?
Jack McBain is the real
we go.
value guy, right? 167 hits. He basically gives you 3 hits a night. Yeah, Jack McBain is crazy.
In Vancouver, the usual suspects, just kind of whoever's available. DeBrusque, Garland. Just go check on Philip Peronic. He's 48%. And then victim of the Player Safety Association, Tyler Myers for riffs. He did have an assist tonight. 3%. And then before we get into goalies here, Armin is asking for a good return on Kaprizov. I would not take anything worse than like a top round guy, someone you would draft in the first round.
I mean,
like, don't you know how much Kaprizov is worth? Don't take less than that.
Yeah, I mean, like, even looking, it's difficult. Like, I think Armin was saying, like, he might get shut down for LTIR purposes. Like, not impossible, but do they even have somebody that they were targeting to snag on LTIR? Like, I don't know. I don't know if they have anybody that, like, they could specifically target. They have current cap space of what, 5 million?
That sounds right. And they have all that dead space, which is insane that they're achieving what they are this season with, like, was it 15 mil in dead cap space?
Yeah.
Like, next year, Minnesota could be scary.
What the heck? Yeah. So I don't know, like, off the top of my head, any specific UFA or, like, trade targets that are specifically 5 mil that they can snag. But I mean, if anybody knows, throw it in the chat, throw it in the Discord, and then we'll figure it out from there. But I don't think, Armin, you have to, I mean, if it works out exactly the way you're describing,
like he'll be back in time. I would not.
Yeah,
I would not be trying to play or trade Kaprizov.
Sure.
So goalie streams, Friday, Saturday, back to back. Nashville is the only team doing it. They're at Buffalo, at Pittsburgh. I don't know if I touch not Lincoln in. Oh my gosh, Noonan.
Noonan, yeah, Justice, yeah.
Although, you know what, both those games are very winnable. I don't know if that's where I go for a goalie start. Saturday, Sunday, you got Calgary versus Detroit at Seattle. Detroit at Calgary, at Vancouver. Florida versus Chicago versus New York Islanders. I like that one. New York Islanders at Tampa, at Florida. And the New York Rangers at Boston versus Vegas. Yeah, I don't know. I think Spencer Knight with Florida. I think he's the winner there.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
All right. So next week prep, last wrapping up here. No Sunday Monday overlap again. But best schedules, Montreal of all teams, 4 games, 2 off nights. Not a lot of good streaming guys there, but hey, they got the schedule. Worst schedules, Anaheim, Buffalo, and Detroit all have 2 games, 0 off nights. And that's going to go ahead and wrap it for tonight. Tag us using at FHFH. We'll be back this Saturday at 11 Eastern with Sis Start Saturday. And then later that night, the guys will be back with the Week 18 preview. Good night. Good mental health, everyone.
Pick you up later.
Adios, turd nuggets.